Hey guys,
Hey.
what's up? What's up? That's the
Facebook.
ATL in old Cambridge, Massachusetts.
All right. All right,
With
down
you.
here.
All right, look, we got to get started because I'm gonna try to stay on time today. And this is a kind of like, I don't know, it's an interesting topic. I think it's can be heavy. We'll see where it goes. But I'm titling it Growing Up Black. That's
Okay.
the title. And so
Why does age look like that?
I don't know. And it's I want to touch on a few things. I want to touch on how you feel about being Black, how that has changed over time. I want to go a little bit into the events of this summer with George Floyd and basically, the whole racial unrest. Your experience of being Black at a PWI versus a HBCU in terms of college, and the relationships that you have with your friends who are not Black, especially during all the racial unrest and all the things that we were experiencing this summer. So it's a lot. We're going to try to cover it. We may have to do two parts. I'm going to keep track of the time here, and we'll try to stay within a half an hour. And if we have to move this discussion till next week, we'll do that, because there are other things I do want to touch on. So anyway, let's just dive right in. So how do you feel? Like, you're 20, Monty, you're 20, almost 21.
Happy 21.
Gonna be 21. Isaiah is soon to be 23. So it's an interesting time to be Black in America. We've all had, every sort of decade is an interesting time. But I'm curious just how you guys feel. Like, honestly, like, how do you feel about being Black in America? And I'm going to start with, not you, Monty, this time, because I keep starting with you. I'm going to start with Zaya as the eldest.
I'm so sorry, I'm laughing. I don't know. Right now, I'm honestly, I started laughing because I'm like tired I'm on camera right now, so I gotta tighten up. But I would say, like, right now, I feel okay. I feel like I have support from my friends and family. That kind of keeps me up. I'm also, at this point, I'm not really surprised by anything. Just I don't know. I know I'm working hard to, like, create the best community for the people that are, like, coming to fill my shoes, and, like, trying to create the best scenarios for, like, the people next, as well as staying focused on, like, what my role is and kind of how I plan to use my platform and do all of those things. At the same time, I am kind of tired, like, as far as, maybe, like, work that I've had, or kind of things that I've had to do, to, like, questions like, what does Black History Month mean to you? Like, getting those questions from white people, is just like, what does it mean to you? Like, you answer that question for me.
You're constantly
Yeah,
having to
so
educate. You're in a position where you're constantly having to educate folks, and
yes,
exhausting.
yes,
Right,
and
right.
I'll end with, it's always hard to know what actions that you're taking are really, making progress, and what are you doing that's performative, and what it's a tough balance. So I'm doing well mentally, but I'm also trying to kind of, I don't want to distance myself, because literally every day I'm working to create a good environment, with, like, the newest club that I'm in. But um, it's tough sometimes, I guess.
Yeah, and I can relate to that. I mean, I want to hear some more specifics, and we'll get to that. But I can relate to what you're talking about, even in corporate America now. Like, and some of the things that we're doing, and I work tirelessly at at trying to create a better environment, not really just for myself, but really for the folks who are coming after me, and the junior folks, and the folks that are your age that are gonna, show up at our corporation and in our department. And there's always that like question, are we like, what are we doing? Are we doing the right thing? Are we actually doing things that's gonna make a difference? And we may not see it now, but is it something that's actually gonna make a difference going forward? Are we spinning our wheels? It's exhausting. So Mani, let me turn to you.
Yeah.
Pretty
I think
pretty broad question, but just
I was gonna say this is
how you feel.
very broad, but I think that I'm in a completely different space than like the both of you. Like mommy, you're in corporate America, which is predominantly white, and Zaya, you go to Harvard, PWI. So I think that like your position is probably like you said, tired, and I think that I'm like in a different like space right now, just a different environment, different, just being in a different state, different city. Like I'm probably was tired before, but I'm very like at this moment in my life, I'm very proud to be Black, and I don't think I could always say that. Well, I don't think, not that I couldn't always say that, but I wouldn't say that. Like, not saying I wasn't proud, but I wouldn't say like, oh, I'm Black and I'm proud. But I think that I'm in a space where I'm not trying to, I don't feel like, this is kind of, maybe this is bad, but I don't feel like I have to speak up for anybody, for who I am here. I think there's enough people, if you want to do that, that's like your choice. But I think that where I'm at, it's like I don't have to speak for a bunch of people because I'm around people that can like speak for themselves.
Mhm.
So I don't
Speak
necessarily,
to your experience.
yeah, that's just me right now. So I feel that way. I think that can make me a little bit lazy as far as like taking steps and moving forward as like as a Black person in America. But that's kind of where I am. I'm around so many Black people that I like am shocked to see white people. So I'm not really in, I went to you go to the airport and you're like really shocked that there are Black people in Georgia. And yet somehow, I don't, that sounds crazy, but that's how it is. And, I'm in schools that there's just like only Black kids, maybe 2 like Hispanic children in the schools. Like I'm just surrounded, all
You
my
mean
friends,
in the schools where you teach?
the schools where I teach, yeah, like teachers, like I'm just in a different space, so I can see like I see Black everything, like Black excellence, Black not so excellence, I'm seeing everything, and it's just kind of like I don't know how that's impacting me, but I just feel like kind of like free.
Well,
So
I gotta tell, yeah. Oh, you said you feel free. That is powerful. I gotta tell you, the one thing I always say about going to Spelman or going to a school, going to, having 4 years at Spelman, is that it allowed me the opportunity to hold not only race constant, but sex constant.
uh,
You don't have to worry about gender issues, and you don't have to worry about race. And that gives you every opportunity just to be excellent, just
yeah,
excellent.
yeah,
And when you have to think about all those other things and you're impeded by all of those other things, you have to work harder at it. And so I do appreciate your comment of just, you feel free. I mean, it's a great time. It still prepares you for the real world. Trust me. When you get out there. And so people worry about that too. When you go to HBCU, oh, you're around Black people all the time and you're not prepared. Look, I went to an HBCU undergrad and I went to an HBCU law school. I wasn't prepared when I went to corporate America, but I also had the freedom to be excellent in the institutions that I went to. And so I'm curious, Deuce, you mentioned that, you're always in a position where you kind of feel like you're having to educate, where you're speaking for your race. That kind of came up on our last call. Give me an example. Like both of you guys have friends who are not Black, and Mani, a lot of your friends who are not Black are from high school. But give me an example of, a situation, and maybe we're going back to the George Floyd situation where you had to do a lot with the football team and all that. But give me an example of a situation where you know, you had to deal with sort of the difference of opinions or having to educate someone, and sort of what came of that?
Um, yeah. Okay. Sorry, I thought I was muted. Um, well, I guess I'm like at Harvard. I'm in different groups. Um, so like I'm blessed with the awesome football team, where like it's probably the most diverse space that you're gonna get at Harvard. So that's been mostly a blessing. I don't want to get like too like in depth because like those conversations that we had, like that's like that's a part of our squad. But with that comes like a difference in opinions. So like one thing I'll say for sure that I appreciate was like Coach Murphy and our DB coach, Coach Pop, and everybody, Coach Vasil, like people were willing to have those discussions like after the George Floyd thing, and there were a lot of what was it? I forget what football program basically like lied to social media and like told the world that they had a discussion about the George Floyd situation, and they did not. It was just that was just a lie. But there were definitely times where like I had to you have to educate grown people at times, and uh, uh, where I felt it took somebody on the team to kind of stand up and educate the coaching staff or this or that, and they were willing to take the education and learn from it, and we all discussed. But there have been numerous situations like that, not even at Harvard, but just times where I don't know. I probably didn't have to, but I felt like I should. I felt like I did have to just kind of speak up and represent the group and represent kind of everybody. So it's definitely not something that probably I have to do, honestly. But it's just something I don't really feel comfortable not doing. So there have been. So I don't want to give like concrete examples, but just with the different groups that I'm in, like it comes with that. And I also want to say, just thank my friends, especially my friends from Lawrenceville, my kind of my group from back there who do a lot of work educating me. We kind of just brainstorm all the time. We're always talking about this type of stuff. So I'm able to kind of use that and to kind of do some education outside of that.
And then, unfortunately, you're going to need those skills, and you're going to have to bring that effort to your workforce, wherever that may be. And I do feel like it's the conversations are happening now, and people are open to being educated, and open to listening, and open to even talking more about it, their own personal experiences. And I think when people see that people they work with, people that they have great relationships with, their colleagues have experienced certain things that they think only other Black people experience, it opens their eyes. And so it's important to continue to educate. So kind of shifting a little bit, I don't know if you remember.
I didn't get to answer that.
Go ahead, Monty.
I didn't even get to answer.
Oh,
It wasn't a question for you, actually.
Yeah, it was more like navigating his environment at a PWI. But I would love to hear your experience, like your conversations that you have. You have some of your best friends. I hate to say it because it sounds cliche, but at least one of your best friends is white, right? So how do you
I thought I was going to speak. Like, I'm the one that has like the white best friend.
I know. So how do you navigate those kind of conversations? And you have a very diverse group of friends, and it's a small group, but they're very diverse and from different nationalities and stuff like that. But one of your very best friends is white. How have you navigated those conversations, especially what was going on this summer?
Yeah, I like my group. So went to MFS, PWI, like high school, and there was like a shift. Well, it wasn't really a shift in my friends, but it was like how I treated people when like Trump got elected. You kind of saw kind of what was going on that you really didn't see before. So I think that just kind of like narrowed down my group like more concrete. I mean, that's just what happened. And then I have like you said, like I only have like a 4-person friend group, and one of them is white, and the white girl happens to be my best friend out of all of them. And she just has always educated herself. I've never had to like, when everything happened, it was kind of like, I don't know if it's just there are self-aware white people. So I think she's just one of them. And I think I probably wouldn't associate myself with her if that wasn't really the case. So I think that's part of it. Hey daddy. I think that's part of it. Like just like keeping like the people around you, like, I mean, you sure of course you want like different views and stuff, but
Yeah.
my experience with that is just that white person was always um like always keeping up, and like she took it upon herself to like read a bunch of books that people were, all the books that you were saying ended up being at your job, mommy, that you guys had them reading and stuff. She was like reading them and stuff like that, like, oh, just how to be aware, how to be conscious, things like that. I had nothing to do with that. I would just come over her house and she's like, oh yeah, I was just reading that, like kind of thing,
Oh yeah.
things like that. Like I never had to say anything. It was just kind of like, that's just something that she just
Yeah.
always, yeah.
Yeah, I
So
mean that's great. I mean, and very rare. I can't say it's rare. I don't know, but that's awesome. That you had that, and it wasn't like you were constantly trying to.
no, I never really had to teach her anything. That like we always have those types of conversations. We have those conversations in high school, kind of like Zay was saying, like having those conversations is like going back and forth, learning from each other. And I definitely learned a lot from the people that are in my friend group, and she learned a lot from us, that particular person. So I think that that was just like conversations. Just conversations are like the key.
Yeah, definitely. So when did you guys know? Like, when did you know you were Black, and like what that meant in America? Like, was there something that happened, anything that happened, or maybe we kind of said, look, guys, you're Black, you can't do everything, or, there may be some issues, or you got to work harder. I don't know. Maybe there was an incident that happened in elementary school. I don't know. But when did you kind of know that, hey, I'm Black, this is a little different. I don't have, I may not have the same quote unquote privileges as everyone else? Is there a moment that stands out?
I don't really actually have like that moment. I feel like we were like, I feel like I just know I'm Black, but I don't really know. But sometimes I'll like pay attention to like, I pay attention to Layla and Anthony a lot, and I can kind of see like it working in their minds. Maybe I just don't remember it kind of like that happening for me, but like I can kind of see like when like we'll like watch something, or like kind of like I said last week when like they were watching Harriet, or like even when the George Floyd thing incident happened, like I think they were kind of like, wow, like when you play something on your phone, or when you turn the radio on and they're in the car, like just kind of like they're listening. So I think that's maybe a moment for them, or maybe I had that moment, I don't remember. But I think just like seeing things in the world, you're just like, wow, this is not a coincidence that people that look like me go through what we go through.
But did you ever have a moment where it was like realization?
No, I know exactly what you're talking about, like that type of moment, like, oh, they didn't pick me because I'm Black. Like I didn't really I can't really speak. So I'm not gonna like lie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
Make
no, no,
something up.
I'm just curious if it happened. I can't think of a single incident, but yeah, I'm curious but I'm old, so I can't remember anything, but I'm just wondering if there was an incident. Deuce.
So yeah, okay. As far as like incidents, I had one like crazy moment that was so weird. It's not even, I don't even know if it's just, but I ordered this Lyft, right? I was on the way from the barbershop, need to go back, clearly. And I ordered a Lyft. I ordered like those group lifts. This is in college. So I have like moments before that, like as far as what was happening around the world.
Wait,
But I
you
ordered
worked
this
at what?
like a Uber,
Oh,
like a
Yeah.
group, those group Ubers that like, there'd be somebody else in the car.
Mhm.
And I opened the door and this white lady just started screaming at me. She was like,
You never
ah!
told me that. What?
Uh, it was and the guy in the front was like, hey, yo, you need to chill. You're in a group lift. Like, you need to relax. Like, it was everybody was it was like in the middle
Did
of
you
Harvard
get
Square.
in after that?
I had to get in the car. It was terrible. I felt like, oh my, I was like, yo,
That she was
she
that
is
afraid
really,
of you.
that's really what I felt like a savage or something. It was crazy. But moments that like kind of solidified to me when I was younger, it was ridiculous.
No, Daddy
Looking back on it's funny.
Daddy had a similar incident.
We were talking about it.
Yeah, and
We
that
we talked about that.
we'll never forget what happened there. Maybe I'll
Yeah,
let
you
him
got the
talk to you
cops
about it.
calling.
I mean, I know we talked
Yeah,
about
no,
it. He'll join us.
yeah. But then being younger, like the moments that were big for me was like just seeing Barack Obama, become president, and like, I was him for Halloween, and I think that was really big. And I don't want to go too deep into like why, but obviously people know why that was huge for like a young Black person at that time. And then kind of on the negative side was seeing Trayvon Martin. And I was like still relatively young at that point. It kind of just like put it in perspective because like we are like like we were like middle class family at the time, and like, sometimes you can think like some things don't happen to you because you might have a little bit more money or things like that. And Trayvon was in just a nice area, and, was he was just an everyday kid. I could see myself kind of in him, and I don't know if that's the right way to phrase that.
And you,
But I just felt like there was similarities. He was eating Skittles, Arizona hoodie on, like that was me with my friends every day. So that was kind of like a moment where I was like, oh, okay, this is pretty real.
and
and I'm not as far from it as like you might think when you're young. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing that scares everyone, right? Because all of these people are coming from all walks of life, and we do everything we can to try to put ourselves in a better situation, but at the end of the day, you're still a Black man in America, and I can send you to Lawrenceville, I can send you to Harvard, I can send mine to Spelman, but if you get stopped, by the police because your tail light is out or because you've been profiled, at any moment anything can happen to you. I mean, there are days when you have left the house in your truck and you say, I'm going out with my friends, that I literally, and it was, nighttime, and I literally prayed, that you wouldn't get stopped, and that you would know what to do when you did get stopped. And that's unfair for anyone to have to think about and do on a regular basis. How do you feel when you get stopped by an officer? I know you were stopped one time while you were driving. Do you have certain emotions pre, during, after?
I just be scared. I don't even. I don't. Cop whatever. Yeah, I follow all the rules. I don't like it, so I try to avoid it. I've been stopped twice, but it's scary. My heart drops. Personally, I don't know, Monty, if you've been stopped yet.
Monty's been stopped.
Yeah, I was stopped once. My headlights were not on. Yeah, I was scared. I was really scared, and I was just really polite.
We have hold on, we have a special guest that's joining us. I don't know when he's joining, but we do have a special guest. Here he comes. Hey. Hey, we got a special guest. How are you?
Good. What's up?
What's up? I got your two guys on the Zoom
My
here.
team, Monty,
Hey, Daddy.
Young Eddie.
So
What's up? What y'all talking about here?
we're talking about
at
growing
you.
up Black, and I talked to them. We started talking about just how they feel about being Black. How has that changed over time? How is it different at a PWI place like Harvard versus going to school at a place HBCU place like Spelman? And then we talked a little bit about the relationships they have with their friends who are not Black, and just the pressures of sort of speaking for your race, especially Deuce, because he's in a position where he's constantly having to do that in the different groups and organizations he's in. But we just touched on a topic that I thought you could weigh in on a little bit, and that's really sort of the fear of being stopped, by police officers, and just the average person that looks like me, you, well, actually you and Zaya, because that's what we hear about mostly in the news, but obviously me and Monty too with Tawana. But I know you've been stopped before, and profiled, quite frankly, anytime you're driving in a nice car. And I'm curious how you feel when you're stopped. I mean, you Black man, several degrees, medical doctor, and you're not immune from racism or prejudice and all of that stuff. I'm curious how you feel.
Right. It's a difficult situation, and I mean, being African American, when you're dealing with the police, you have just things kind of go back a long way. I mean, I just think that there's almost, in a lot of cases. Oh,
I had to close the door.
good. All right, let me get used to this. But I just think in a lot of cases, I mean, when you are stopped, you instantly, or even if you're being tailed or followed or anything like that, you instantly, everything changes in terms of how you feel. Whether it's you can feel your heart rate go up, you can feel increased anxiety, no matter what. And I mean, it's not like I'm somebody who has, anything to hide at all. There's nothing in my car. There's nothing on my person. But when you're dealing with the police, and I really can't tell you exactly how far it goes back or why it's like that, but just experiences, years and years and years, that and not all bad. I mean, I've been pulled over multiple times because, I mean, just for my profession, I have to drive into the hospital at 2 a.m. and, I'm doing 80, 90, 100 going into the hospital. And I've been pulled over, and a lot of times I'll, give my ID and let the cop or the police officer know the situation, and they'll let me go. But, it's always comes down to power a lot of times when you deal with police officers, and they always try to stress that they have the power, whether it's flashing a flashlight directly in your face, which is, when you get pulled over at night and they come up to the side of the car, boom, the flashlight is going to be right in your eyes. So you can't see them, but basically it just intensifies whatever is going on. Just the whole scenario just brings about a lot of stress, a lot of fear. You're trying to produce the documents, you're trying to do what they say. A lot of times they don't tell you why you've been stopped. In most cases, they don't tell you why you've been stopped, whether you were speeding or not, and typically you're not. But just interaction with the police have some good, but I could go on and on in terms of different actual scenarios, but being Black, being pulled over, dealing with police officers, it's you don't know what's going to happen, and it's unfortunate, and it's
no matter how you try to do your best to cooperate, a lot of times what you find is that the questions that you're being asked are very condescending and accusatory, where, one scenario, I'm being pulled over, not given a reason why I was pulled over, asked, do I have any weapons? Do I have any drugs? And this is after I told the police officer that I'm an interventional cardiologist. I'm on call. I'm covering, 4 hospitals tonight. I'm covering 4 hospitals. And basically his response in that case was, do I have any drugs or do I have any weapons? Do you have anything in the car that I should know about? I just told you I'm a physician, so it's almost a scenario where you're being accused of something. So your demeanor completely changes. There was the other scenario where we were going to church. We were all, dressed, church clothes. It's, 10:30 Sunday morning, clear day. There was a lot of commotion in the back of the car. We were all in the car. Layla was going crazy. And, I may have lost track of the speed and we got pulled over. And the officer knew where we were going. It's a family going to church, but he decided to, kind of just take advantage of the situation and show that, I don't know if he's trying to embarrass me or try to, all he had to do, I explained to him that my daughter was crying and maybe I lost track of the speed and blah, blah, blah. But just being completely, inconsiderate and again, accusing me of speeding and not being mindful of the speed limit and changing lanes and all this, things that didn't happen. Where most people, myself, if I see someone in that scenario, that situation, you have the proper documents, I'm just going to let you go about your way, enjoy, church service, blah, blah, blah. But it's extremely difficult. The level of fear that you instantly get is something that you can't control. And, maybe they feel the same way. They see a Black man in a car and I don't know, but I think that the way that they address the situation, the way that they speak to you, the way that they talk to you, can push and move the needle in one direction. If, cause I know multiple times, Lita, you like, oh, baby, just calm down, just do this, just do that. I'm like, look, I'm good. I got it. I'm all right.
Yeah, no, I'm protecting you because I already know that the being pulled over and being talked to a certain kind of way is infuriating, especially being accused of certain things, being accused of, but also just being treated with disrespect. And so it's my job to keep you alive if I can. And so I have on multiple occasions said, okay, just calm down. Because, police don't, even though they're trained to de-escalate, we've seen plenty of situations where they don't de-escalate. They're trying to escalate.
Yeah. But like I said, you're exactly right.
They can use to justify behavior, they're going to justify. So I totally understand where the frustration comes from, but I also understand the reality of the situation.
Yeah. But it is how they approach the situation from the beginning. I mean, they set the tone, especially, from my experience, it's all about how the officer approaches the car, how he comes up, how they speak to you. And those ones who just looking for something. They just looking for something no matter what.
I know.
And
all right, well, we're gonna shift gears a little bit. I just want to ask the kids, what makes you proud to be Black? What are some of the things that make you proud to be Black in America, to be Black, period? Monty?
Very broad.
It's very broad. It's very broad. But are there certain things? I mean, it's just, what you've been through.
I can go.
Have been through, like certain people, or I know it's a very broad question. I don't have anything more specific to ask, but do you have anything that comes to mind? Deuce, you can start.
Yeah, I mean, I can go because I just had an assignment on this in my ancestry class. But where it kind of asked like, what does
ancestry class too? What is it?
Oh yeah.
Answer the question.
It's a class about ancestry. It can be frustrating sometimes. But
are you learning anything about your own ancestry? Because that's my next thing.
I guess we'll answer that next question. But no, as far as what makes you proud about being Black, like I spoke about, like when they asked what ancestry meant to me, I spoke about like lineage and like pride. So to answer, like I feel like family is what has made me proud. I've spoke about it on this, but what y'all have done to educate us, to let us know that Black is beautiful, and you know, give us our history, as well as just boost us up has been huge. Kind of like, I don't know why, but like Daddy, like when you talk about like my great granddad and like what, you know, like use your mind so you don't have to use your back, like stuff like that. I don't know, just stuck with me. And just like seeing kind of how we've built, and how we've kind of grown, and what the Wingfields have done. And then like kind of the house that we moved in, um, you know, has slave quarters, and we like live in an area where there, you know, was a part of the Underground Railroad, and I don't know, I feel like kind of, and also seeing most of my family come from HBCUs, and just seeing what that's done for us, and kind of me trying to build upon that here in the Ivy League while y'all are doing your thing there. I don't know, all that stuff just kind of come together where I don't have to look that far, outside to like be pretty proud of like being Black. Yeah.
Mm.
I agree. When I went to SCLC, which is a Student Diversity Leadership Conference in high
I
school,
was
my
going to ask you about SDLC, so thank you for mentioning
oh
it.
yeah, well when I went there, we had like affinity groups, so I was part of the Black affinity group, and it was so lit. It was just like a big party. When we got there, everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, like this is so awesome!" It was just like all the Black people that went to PWIs in like the country. And we did this like chant, and it was like, "I'm Black, I'm proud, my legacy is loud." And we were just like shouting into the hallways. And when all the affinity groups came out, it was like the Hispanic affinity group, the LGBTQ plus affinity group came out. They were all coming out of their little rooms. We were just like, "I'm Black, I'm proud, my legacy is loud." And we were just shouting that. And when I think of like just being proud of being Black, that's the first thing I think about, is how it was just like everybody was just around me. And then when I think of like legacy, I think of Hamilton. When I think, oh, legacy, what is a legacy? And I feel like our legacy is so loud, and like how Zaya said, we don't have to look very far. And I just feel like um I feel like I've learned so much. I remember when I was in high school, I had to interview grandma and granddad for an assignment over Thanksgiving. And just granddad was just telling me all these things about how he like grew up like in segregation. And I'm just like, that's my granddad. That's not that many generations at all. And I'm just like, I'm here, and I'm like awesome, and I'm like all these things. And because of people like him, and that's my granddad. That's not, I don't have to really turn
Yeah.
on TV to be like, oh, I can see myself in this person. I was like, no, I don't have to look that far. So it's easy to be proud to be Black when
Oh,
we
wow.
have we have just like we have this privilege.
You
Um,
are awesome, by the way. And it's so true. Like, I just think about it. My grandfather's grandfather was a slave. That's
yeah,
not that far. Like, I'm not saying my grandfather, great grand, like my grandfather's grandfather, yeah, he was a great great grand, was a slave. And it's not that far long ago. And we survived it. I
yeah,
mean, you really look at what actually happened in the voyage over, and then what happened for so many years after that, and how we were able to survive it. Every time I get down, every time I think I'm tired, every time I think I can't do it, every time I'm ready to give up, every time I start just getting down on what's happening, I think about what we have been through. And it, like you said, it hasn't been that long ago, but sometimes I dig all the way, I dig all the way back deep to get the inspiration that I need, to know that we are a magnificent people. And the one thing we, Eddie and I Daddy and I wanted to make sure of for sure is that you guys grew up knowing how just phenomenal you are, and being proud to be who you were, because things are going to happen, microaggressions, prejudice, all that stuff. every day in the real world. And if you're fragile and you don't know who you are, you're going to have a hard time out there. And so it's by design that every room in this house, every place that you can spend more than 2 seconds in this house has either Black art or inspirational words or books with Black people. Like this it's by design. Even the bathrooms. You cannot walk into any room in this house and not feel proud to be Black. And so I'm so glad that you guys have taken that. And I hope you pass it on. I don't know if you want to